24-year-old Brett Hundley gets set to make his first NFL start.
Crazy playing for 3 years. That, one day I'll run out the tunnel as a starter, and today was the day. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
It's Ingram. First down, touchdown.
I'm particularly disgusted with the second half.
Breeze to the end zone, touchdown.
All I can say is don't write us off. We're not out. That's all I got to say. We just have to win.
Good evening and welcome to the Sunday Sports Rewind. I'm your host, Kelly Price. Earlier today in Lambeau, a future Hall of Fame quarterback took the field, and it wasn't for the Packers. Drew Brees and his surging New Orleans Saints are in town. Meanwhile, as we previewed there, the Packers started a backup quarterback for the first time since 2013. And there were some wet conditions at Lambeau for his first career start, and it actually started pretty well. First snap, a handoff to Aaron Jones, who finds himself a hole for a nice 15-yard run, which ultimately led to the longest rushing touchdown by a Packer since 2015. Jones again here for a 46-yard score. He's got some work to do on perfecting his Lambeau leap, but I think he'll have a couple opportunities to perfect that art. Green Bay goes on the board for first 7-0. Later, midway through the first, Saints driving, Drew Brees goes deep, and guess what time it is? Randall time. Demarius Randall gets his third interception in as many games. Packers go 3 and out, but Brees did not see that. Next up, Devon is in the house. Devon House gets the second pick of the game. Brees had thrown just 2 picks all season before this. Saints put a score on the board, so it's 7-7 in the second quarter. Hundley is looking around and says, you know what, I'm just going to take this one in myself. Not just a first down, but for 6. How about that? First NFL start, first NFL rushing touchdown. Packers take 14-17 into the halftime. Later in the second half, Brees to Brandon Coleman for 6, and I say 6 because the wingspan on Kenny Clark blocks this extra point. No Packer has done that since 2013, 14-13 game. From there, a kicker's duel. Will Lutz hits this 28-yarder, 16-14. Then Mason Crosby did his part to get the Pack back on top, 17-16. But then the Saints came marching back. Brees here over the top to break the plane and give New Orleans a 9-point lead. From there, Hundley would be picked off for the first time in the game, and that's what the Saints needed to seal this deal. Packers fall 26-17, but the Pack still has hope. A positive takeaway being Aaron Jones. With more on that, take it away, Chris Barrier.
The first game without Aaron Rodgers was good, it just wasn't good enough. The Packers showed flashes of light at times on this very gloomy afternoon at Lambeau Field, particularly in the running game. For the second time in the last 3 weeks, rookie back Aaron Jones rushed for over 100 yards, and that helped alleviate some of the pressure of quarterback Brett Hundley.
Well, you always want to be able to run the ball. That always makes it easier on any quarterback that you play with. So, run game is very important.
Good instinctive runner. He's getting better with every opportunity. He definitely set the, got us going there early with the big run. So, has good vision. Really like his, his vertical slashing style. So, I thought he did a lot of really good things today.
I'm getting more and more confident each week. We go over it every week. So, we get new installs, but the quarterbacks are helping me out. Coaches, Todd's helping me out. So, it helps a lot.
For those wondering if Aaron Jones is officially the starting running back, well, the stats somewhat speak for themselves. Jones carried the ball 17 times today, while third-year veteran running back Ty Montgomery touched the ball just 5 times, 4 carries for 6 yards, and 1 reception for 9. Keeping you connected from Lambeau Field, Chris Barrier, NBC26.
All right, thank you, Chris. Well, some more post-game analysis. We're going to go back to Chris and Charlie at Lambeau for final thoughts.
Now we've got to talk a little bit about tonight's game, and we got to bring in an expert to do it. Michael Cohen here with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Chris is going to ask some questions too because I'm going to let him.
I get to do that.
Yeah, so Michael, first let's talk about Brett Hundley. Obviously he had the touchdown running on the ground, but really they were a bit ineffective through the air.
Yeah, I think that's putting it mildly, to be honest. If you're an NFL quarterback and you don't complete 50% of your passes, there's something wrong. So I don't know if it's because Mike McCarthy was not comfortable with opening up the playbook, or I don't know if it's because there's some serious deficiencies with Brett Hundley. My guess is there's a little bit of both. But if I'm the Green Bay Packers, I can't have a ton of offense in this, or excuse me, a ton of confidence in this offense right now because Hundley showed that he really can't do nearly anything that Rodgers was able to do.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting when you listen to to both guys talk post-game, Coach McCarthy says, I need to do a better job of coming up with a game plan for Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley says, I need to do a better job of being comfortable in the pocket. So which is it? I mean, where does the blame come from? And looking at this week now with a bye week, what do you do to kind of sort that out and find that balance?
So I think that's a really good question, and there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think that there was some conservative play calling by Mike McCarthy today. There were a number of drives that seemed to go first down run, second down run, third down pass. And when the run was working well, that was fine. But when the run wasn't working and you got into third and long, then there were some issues. The other side of it is with Brett Hundley. I think that there were some times where he had the opportunity to stay in the pocket, as you mentioned, and he didn't. And then when he got outside the pocket, it's the same flaw that we've seen dating back the last 2 years, which is as soon as he starts to roll toward a sideline, he never throws the ball. He almost always rolls all the way to the sideline and then throws it out of bounds. And it's a huge difference between him and Rodgers, because Rodgers is lethal outside the pocket. So I think it's a little bit of both in those areas when it comes to coaching and quarterback play.
Now, one of the things we did see today that was a positive, that run game with Aaron Jones, something they can certainly build on. Is that enough of a piece to start building for them to maybe have something to hang their hat on against Detroit next time?
I think it is big enough because, I mean, if you can rush for 180, I think, which is what they did, a little bit over 180, I mean, that's remarkable. Not a lot of teams do that week in and week out. The Packers haven't done it in a long time. In fact, they might not have done that since they played the Cowboys a couple years ago here. But it was a tremendous game by Aaron Jones, and I think, first of all, he showed that he's the feature back. It's not Ty Montgomery. That experiment did not work out, and Aaron Jones is going to be the guy to lead this team. And then second of all, I think it showed that when healthy, this offensive line can really create some holes for guys. And so if I'm Mike McCarthy in that respect, I do feel confident moving forward because I know that whatever happens with Brett Hundley, the guys up front can pave a way and Aaron Jones can run behind them.
Let's talk about the defense, right? The first half, very different from the second half. And even if they did have an unbelievable game with Brett Hundley and the game plan worked, you still give up 485 all-purpose yards. What happened so different in the second half of the defense that wasn't effective the way they were in the first?
Well, I think what happened is that, you know, the tandem of Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara combined for 217 yards, and about 60% of that was in the first half. So when they played that well early, it set up huge play action opportunities in the second half. And Breeze finished by converting 3 fourth downs in the fourth quarter alone. The Saints scored on 4 of their last 5 possessions, and the 5th was the kneel down to end the game. So essentially what the Saints did was pepper them with the run early, and once the linebackers became susceptible to that, they opened it up with the play action pass, and that's when you saw Ted Ginn and Michael Thomas really get going. So it was a tale of 2 evils for the Packers. Started out well, ended really terribly.
See, important information.
It was important information, but we are going to now call it, I think, for me, for Chris Barrier, for Michael Cohen. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. The Packers relinquished control of the NFC North last week with a loss at Minnesota. But let's see where things stand now that the dust has settled from today's games. Through Week 7, the NFC North is led by the Vikings with a 5-2 record. They've won 3 straight. Then the Packers in second place, losing their last 2, followed by the Lions, who were on a bye this week, come to town next game for the Packers November 6th after the bye. And in the cellar are, you guessed it, the Bears. But the NFL has been super weird this season, and that being said, let's roll the tape on today's Bears-Panthers game. Cam Newton trying to get back to being super Cam, but the Bears defense had something to say about that. Newton pitches right to Curtis Samuel, a derp, a scoop, and a score for Eddie Jackson. He goes 75 yards for 7 points. Chicago on the board early, 7-zip. And then we go to the second quarter, Panthers driving again, and are you kidding me? Eddie Jackson again? 75 more yards. He streaks for his second trip to the end zone. That's 150 yards for him, whereas the entire Bears offense had 153 yards, 14-zip Chicago. And the defense, of course, seals the victory, intercepting Newton again. Bears win despite 0 offensive touchdowns in this entire game, 17-3. Over to Minnie, I present to you some purple on purple crime. Ravens at Vikings. First frame, Case Keenum airs it out, and yeah, that's not who you want to throw it to. Brandon Carr with the pick, but Baltimore couldn't do anything with it. It became a kicking battle. Kai Forbath here boots a 43 yards out for a 9-6 lead. Third quarter, finally seeing some end zone action as Latavius Murray rumbles and tumbles 29 yards for his first tutty of the season. But the extra point's no good. 18-6 Vikings. And per usual, Minnesota was bringing the purple rain on D. Joe Flacco feels the pressure as Everson Griffin sacks him. Is that trying to pass for the Ray Lewis dance? Doesn't matter. Vikings win 24-16. And around the league today, it was evident the injury bug has bitten more teams than just the Packers. First off, Carson Palmer broke his left arm en route to a 33-0 shutout at the hands of the Rams. Even Jay Cutler left his game with an injury. He was helped off the sideline. He's reported to have a cracked rib. Miami's backup Matt Moore ended up leading the Dolphins to victory, and I feel like there's a joke in here, but I'll let it be. Worst of all, worse news than their 0-7 start. The Browns left tackle Joe Thomas ended his 10,363 snap long streak. He's never missed a game, or a down rather, since he was drafted back in 2007. That was when the first iPhone came out. The dude has lasted longer than most cell phones. Speaking of amazing shows of athletic prowess, Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo is off to a red-hot start through the first 3 games. And normally at this point in time, I would show you normal game highlights from last night, but all you need is the final 30 seconds of this one, because that's all Giannis needed. Check him out. Check him off the list. He gets a steal, drives down the paint, dunks on him. Bucks up by a point here. Antetokounmpo relishes his brilliant 44 points, a new career high with 10 seconds left. Portland pick and roll. Your request is denied. Huge block for the Greek Freak, who denies the Blazers the W. The hype is real for the Deer in this 113-110 victory. All right, so I'm going to end with this. This is special. Antetokounmpo's dad died suddenly of a heart attack back in September at their family home in Milwaukee. The grief of losing his 54-year-old father is still raw for Giannis, though, so after last night's huge win, he got the game ball and wrote on it, quote, "This is for you, Daddy. We got a win tonight, and I got 44 points," end quote. Wow. The power of sports. On that note, I want to thank you for staying up with us. It was worth it, wasn't it? On behalf of myself and the whole crew here at The Rewind, thanks for watching and have a great night.